Thursday morning, June 26th. I'm now officially 65 years old. Time to sign up for Medicare. Get onto that government plan. So we came in at 6 o'clock today. We're working part-time Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6 to 12. So we started at 6. It's now 8:05. And this truck has 163,000 miles on it, 742. We're at truck 358. My name is Max. We're about to work on the second spot of the day, which will be our third container movement. We're inside the shipping terminal at San Allen. We just dropped our third movement, which was an empty 45-foot container from the Navy Supply Distribution, better known as the NEX. And we're dedicated to them today for as long as we're here. We got at least 7 movements. I don't know if we'll be able to get them all done. Only 3 of them are off the ship. We've done one. Getting ready to do the second one. So we'll just leave the camera on here. We're in Charlie 16 stall 43 and we need to go to Charlie 16 stall 17. This truck does not like to idle more than 3 minutes. There we go. Dropping number 3. Is right in front of us here, but there's a yard hustler dropping off a container right across from it. So we'll wait till he leaves. Up to this gray can here. Sounds like a pretty good connect there. Turn on the 4-way flashers and the lights. And the fast idle. Double check our container number 453265, 453265. Alright, let's get hooked up. So our first full container was on a chassis with an expired safety check. So we had to take that one into the shop. This one's looking pretty good so far. Yeah. Even has good mud flaps. So yeah, the safety check was expired. It was a 4. This is a 12, so this one hasn't expired yet. The new color is blue, like that. Throttle off, lights off, 4-ways off, brakes released. Pull forward a little bit, trailer brakes are working. The other way. I wish we had small trucks. Life would be so much easier. So today's Thursday. Thursday is when the big ship of the week comes to Hawaii for our company. The ship that we do the most amount of work for comes in on Thursday. It's about halfway offloaded. Of the 7 containers I was given this morning to take down to the Navy supply distribution, 3 are off the ship. We're working on the second one. Hopefully by the time we finish the third one, some more will be off the ship and we can just keep going. We plan to work until 12. We can do about 1 round trip down and back. It takes about an hour and 10-15 minutes to do a round trip. This is the kind of work that if you were a new driver, you would really enjoy, because it's kind of the same thing over and 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 over. And that allows you just to get good fast, because you're doing the same thing over and over. You get the outside 4-wheelers in the yard here, and they're too polite. You know, everybody in the yard is a little on the aggressive side when it comes to moving things around. You just try to stay out of each other's way, you know. But there's not a whole lot of, oh yeah, you go first. No, you go first. You hesitate a second. Okay, you can just wait there then. So yeah, the yard is pretty busy right now with the hustlers bringing all the containers off the ship. It's that early part of the day where everybody's trying to get things going. Yeah, this is actually his truck. We're both part-timers, so he drives Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I drive Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He's number one with the company, I'm number two. Carol, thank you. For some reason that sticks in my head from the tour bus driving days. When I was a tour bus driver, we had like 20, 25 drivers. And when you came into the dispatch office in the morning, there was this big whiteboard. And it had all the drivers' names on it by seniority. So the guy who's been there the longest was on top. Guys who just started were on the bottom. And then next to that guy they would have whatever equipment he was assigned to, and everybody had their own assigned equipment. And then next to that was their schedule for the next day. So you come in the morning and it had your schedule for the day, and then when you came in the afternoon it would have your schedule for the following day, what time you were starting. And then next to it would be a little comment. It's like if you were going to do Circle Island tour, or give you kind of a heads up when you go home as to what you're going to be doing the next day and what your runs are going to be. And so it was kind of a practice at the company that the first three guys in the company were number one, number two, number three. And so that was like their nickname among the drivers, number one, number two. And so for some reason I always think that, you know, the drivers who've been there the longest are number one. I've been there the second amount longest, number two. But when you had that showing every day when you come to work, it kind of lets you know that, you know, okay, this guy's been here 30 years and I've only been here 20 years. The work is the same, it's just that, you know, the tenure is different. The tenure honors, you give respect to the tenure, sort of. At least most companies do. So if you're number 25 on the list, you can't be complaining about how the guy at number one, been there 30 years, is getting all the good stuff, you know? So DOT scale, it kind of looks like it's open, but see how the cones are all blocking the scale? The scale is actually closed. And this little scale house here that the trucks are pulling up to has something to do with the inter-island shipping terminal. I think it's to alleviate trucks waiting in line on Nimitz Highway to get into the inter-island shipping terminal. What they do is they wait in line here, in-gate here, and then that way they just don't have to wait in line over at the inter-island shipping terminal. This way the traffic doesn't back up out onto the street. I think that's what's going on there. I don't know, but that's what it looks like to me. People tend to complain a little bit when you block Nimitz Highway. waiting to get into the inter-island shipping terminal. And on days like Monday and Thursday, when the ships are in, there's a lot of drayage work going from shipping terminal to shipping terminal. When they first started doing that, I got a little confused. I wasn't sure why everybody was waiting in line there. Like, am I supposed to pull in there? It doesn't look like the scale's even open. Favorite junk food right there, Cheetos. I try to stay away from it because it's not good for you, but it's my favorite. I like it more than any of them. I like it more than chocolate. I prefer salt over sweet. Looks like the weather's another beautiful day in Hawaii. Same old, same old, same old, you know. Going up to 84, 85. Trade winds are blowing 10 to 15 miles an hour. Humidity somewhere between 72 and 75%. Same old, same old. About 2 more weeks it'll get into the high 80s, and that's when it gets kind of miserable outside. Once it gets above like 85, it's just hot with the humidity in the 70s and 75. You almost have to stay in the shade or look for a nice windy spot or have air conditioning. Stand out in the direct sun, that's brutal, especially if you're working, and you got to be out in it all day. It's a little rough. And as soon as that ends, which is usually October, that's usually when the heat finally ends. That's when the holiday season starts up, and you just get so busy that you don't get a moment's rest until New Year's. At which point you do get to finally relax. First 3 months of the year, that's probably my favorite time in Hawaii. January, February, March. It might be a little on the cooler side, it might be a little blustery, but those are that's the season I enjoy the most, is January, February, March. Even if the weather is a little yucky. The island gets nice and green then. All the rivers and streams are flowing really well, So make our way down past the Honolulu International Airport. When I first moved to Hawaii, I worked at Sears 1 Hour Photo for about a year. And then I began my career as a tour bus driver. Drove tour buses for 10 years. During that time, the first, pretty much the whole time I worked as a tour bus driver, the Honolulu International Airport was like a second home. Back in those days, it was a little bit different than it is today. 9/11 changed a lot of things in the airports. But in those days, you could go inside the airport. You could actually go through what is, TSA security today. You could actually go through that security without even showing a driver's license or a plane ticket, and you could go all the way to the gate and actually meet people at the gate as they got off the plane. And so you'd always go meet your friends with flour lays and macadamia nut chocolates, and it was a big deal. There would be Polynesian performers in the airport, dressed up in the Polynesian outfits, and you get some pretty girl and a hunky guy, and take your friends over there with their lays and their candies, and they'd stand next to these performers and you take pictures. It was it was a big deal when you'd come to Hawaii. Everybody got laid, But 9/11 changed all that. The TSA came along, and now you can't even get can't get out to the gates even if you wanted to. But yeah, hanging out at the airport waiting on arrivals was a big part of it, being a tour bus driver. I'd say almost, when I first started as a tour bus driver, at least half the work I did was all either arrival sightseeing or just, what they called it a jerk, which was, picking up the passengers at the airport and jerking them to their hotel. That was the term back then. Picking up people at the airport, taking them to the hotel. That was like the very first job you learned as a tour bus driver. That's where you hone your craft as far as becoming a tour bus driver. Because when you start out, you don't know anything. And I didn't know anything. I just moved to Hawaii a year before. I didn't know the islands that well. I didn't know the cultures that well. And you'd pick up these people at the airport, take them to the hotel, and they're standing, you got 50 people sitting right behind you, and they're all like, so what time is it here in Hawaii? And if they're coming from Australia, what day is it again? And so you learn to answer the most asked questions right off the bat. How long is it going to take to get to our hotel? Are you Hawaiian? You don't look Hawaiian. I'm starving. Can you recommend a good place for lunch today? And so if you just listen to the questions on your, because you got 50 people sitting right behind you, and they're all curious. A lot of them are there for here in Hawaii for the first time. They're looking for the grass huts and the hula girls. A lot of them are seeing a coconut tree for the first time. So yeah, it was a great job because you got a lot of questions, and then you'd have to go find the answers so that the next day you didn't seem like an idiot, didn't know what you were doing. That's what I did for 10 years, drove tour buses. To me, it was a great, streetwise education as far as learning the cultures and learning about the islands, because you had to answer questions all day long. It's probably why enjoy talking as a YouTuber today because I'm just used to it. But we're making our way to the Navy Supply Distribution Center. This is a big warehouse where all the goods for the Navy are brought in, and then it's distributed to all the different outlets. A lot of what we're hauling is furniture because a lot of Navy personnel are, you know, newly enlisted. They come to Hawaii, they stay here for 3 years, and the whole time they're here, they're just, it's like their first real good job. They're, you know, 19, 20, 21 years old, buying cars, they're buying furniture for their homes and computers and stuff, and a lot of that's sold, you know, within the exchanges. So we're hauling a 45-foot container, and I'll bet you this one's probably just full of beds and mattresses. Yeah. I'm here until 12 at least.
Put it in the yard. Let's do the yard.
Alright.
Until 12.
Yeah, I only work part-time now.
Oh, that's good, right? And now you have plenty of time for yourself.
I wish.
Let's do the yard.
Are you married?
No.
No?
I'm looking
See,
for my husband.
see, I'm married. That's why I have no time to myself. Look at all these empties. I think there's 14 of them. One thing about the Navy Supply Distribution is they are always busy. And hauling these empties is like the lowest priority for the company, so I always tell when we're not caught up, the empties pile up. And when we're slow, the empties disappear. Good gauge as to how busy the company is. When there's lots of empties, you know we're busy. No empties, we're kind of slow. Diagonal parking really takes a lot of getting used to. When you do it every day, it's no problem. When you don't do it that often, it's like, a feel for the curb. The curb is so small, there's half the time you run right over it. So we dropped number 4. And we just pick up one of these empties. I prefer the ones on the end because they're the easiest to pick up. Just, you know, wash, rinse, repeat, just over and over and over, same thing. But it allows you to get really good in a pretty quick amount of time. Because on an average day, you'll do like 14 movements. 7 full, 7 empties. Lights. Forwards, mass idle. So that's the hardest part of the job. Now I'm going to show you my least favorite part of the job. called paperwork. I hate it. Because now I gotta sit here and do like 5 minutes of paperwork at least. But that's what we're doing today, just back and forth as many times as we can until 12 o'clock. It's 8:39 right now. But that's about it for today. Thanks for watching. Aloha.